Did you know that on November 3rd in the 2008 presidential election, Barack Obama had, via Facebook, over 2 million Facebook friends, while Senator John McCain had barely even 600,000. President Obama had over 300% more supporters via Facebook than Senator John McCain did. Also, 59% of students have access to the internet, and they report that they use their social networking sites for mostly educational purposes. Social media can be a very, very powerful tool for social change and an alternative for a traditional method of communication and broadcast. Good afternoon. I am Hannah Mencher, and today I'm speaking on behalf of how the social media industry will affect the broadcast industry. So first we'll start off with what is broadcast. The definition of broadcast is a transmission of communication through radio or television. So that's your daily news, so your 5 o'clock news, and people sit down and you have packages and you see that on the screen. However, in today's society, broadcast has turned into another form, which is social media. It is now newspapers, online newspapers, is radio, internet sites, blogging, Twitter, Facebook, everything you can imagine. 43% of Americans now use the internet for official news. So that means they check it at least 3 times a day. And that means that when they're sitting on work, they're going to CNN.com, MSNBC.com, and they are checking the news rather than watching a daily newscast show. And that also shows that TV ratings are at an ultimate low today with 66%. But it doesn't say that TV rating is officially down. It just says now that it is down, it might keep going down. So the question is, how do social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, MySpace influence the broadcast industry? With every industry, there's always pros and cons. And right now, we will discuss the good of social media. The pros of social media are they have a frequent two-way communication. So that means reporters will tweet something, especially like a report or a breaking news, and they have two-way communications with their followers. So they can connect with their followers and they can communicate with them and get responses from them. Also, it promotes their personal life, or not personal life, but I guess their personal brand. They can have a Facebook, they can have a Twitter, and they can post packages or whatnot on their Facebook to promote themselves. So they can see, or so everyone can see what they're doing, but also they can maybe get a better job down the road. Also, it's easy to find news sources on the internet, and it rapidly expands. Everything goes viral on the internet. Once you see it once and it is a breaking hard news story, it spreads the word so much quicker. It is also way more inexpensive for broadcast stations to have people who are on Twitter, who are on Facebook, because now they can post everything online and they don't have to actually do a regular broadcast show which would cost them more money. These are some of the examples of some of the top stories that broke out on Twitter. One would be the death of Osama bin Laden. That one was definitely viral. I'm sure everyone saw it. It was like the first thing that popped up on Twitter and stayed on Twitter for weeks. Also, the death of Whitney Houston. I heard on actually E! News that some of her friends found out through Twitter that she had actually passed away. Also, the Hudson River plane landing. That was one of breaking stories on Twitter, and also the death of legendary coach Joe Paterno, which is a very important one, which we will talk about a little later. Like I said, every industry has its pros and cons, and for social media to influence the broadcast industry, it does have its pros, but it also has its cons. Social media is not exactly killing the broadcast industry, because there is still a need for broadcast. You still have 66% of people who are ready to watch television. But the problem is that's the older generation. It's the younger generation today that really loves those social media sites and trust those social media sites for the source that they're getting it from. But that's the problem with social media, is accuracy. It is probably one of the biggest problems with social media and following social media. 50% of news consumers have received breaking news on social media and later find out it was incorrectly reported. I mentioned earlier the Joe Paterno case. It was in his case that a report broke out as breaking news that, in fact, Joe Paterno had passed away. But that was actually reported a day before he actually did pass away. And everyone makes mistakes. We all understand that. But to hear that your family member has passed away on Twitter and it's a breaking news story, that's the problem. Everyone was tweeting R.I.P. Joe Pa when in fact he was actually still alive. Another con for social media is spoiler alert. The spoiler alert, everyone's seen it. You're watching a favorite show, but someone's seen it already, and they're in a different time zone, and you know, there's the end of your TV show or of your movie. But it really was big with the 2012 Summer Olympics. Although the 2012 Summer Olympics, to this date, was the most watched Olympics in history, people were still complaining about how on Twitter and Facebook and blogs that they had already found out before they even watched the competition that Gabby Douglas and Michael Phelps had won the gold. And that's where you get your problems for social media. It definitely can help the broadcast industry by promoting and spreading the word quicker, but then you have all these other problems as well. In conclusion, social media can be very helpful to the broadcast industry, but it's also killing it at the same time. Like I said, only 66% of people now watch actual broadcast television. And in this case, they're probably mostly the older generation. And so that percentage probably will still keep going down. Another pro is that it helps the cost. Especially in this economy, not a lot of people can afford really expensive things. So having a journalist on Twitter, having a journalist who blogs, who can spread the word through Twitter, social media, it really helps lower the cost. But we also have the cons of inaccuracy and spoiler alert. So in conclusion, you know, the broadcast industry has definitely the social media industry has definitely affected the broadcast industry, but for both positive and negative reasons. And I would just like to thank you for listening to me today and letting me come speak to you on how social media has affected the broadcast industry and how it will keep affecting the broadcast industry. And at this time, I would love to take any questions.